Hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of the Story Darlings podcast. I am Sandra.
And I'm Tara.
And today we are going to talk about a really fun show that recently came out on Apple TV. I actually don't watch Apple TV. Like, this was the first thing that I actually watched on that streaming service. So it was interesting to see the types of shows that they had on it. But I'm super excited about the one that we're going to talk about today. But before we jump into that, I just need to check on my friend. How are you, Tara?
I'm doing good. I also have not watched anything on Apple TV, and this is my first one, and I had to buy it to be able to watch this show
What?
to make this episode.
No, you bought it?
I did. So I'm also going to be able to watch other things, but there was some dedication thrown in there for this episode for you guys.
I appreciate you watching it for me.
Other than that, I had to binge watch that today, so a lot of watching of TV happened, but I also have gotten addicted to a slot machine game on my phone. So don't judge. That's my way of not gambling real money. I gamble the fake money on my phone. And rereading a book called Fallen Too Far by Abby Glines. So busy.
Oh,
But
she's an author that you followed on Twitter.
yeah,
Okay.
I also tweeted something from her because she has a new book coming out, a new anthology, with a whole lot of other authors, and the sales of it, the profits are going to go to a charity for sexual abuse and assault and helping people. And you know how we love those
Mm-hmm.
good cause things with books and stories. So really excited about that one too. I pre-ordered it already. So hopefully I will remember when it does come out that I need to read it.
Yeah. Tell me again what types of books Abby writes.
She writes just love stories, just straight YA, young adult love stories. There's always some sort of twist with them though. There's always some reason that you get sucked into those characters' lives. And feel for them and want them to have a happy ending. So I love it. It's just it pulls at your
Yeah,
heartstrings.
you're a sucker for those stories.
I want to feel like the person deserves the good ending that happens to them. I don't know. I might be a bad person, but I want to feel like they deserve.
Yeah. I feel like I haven't been reading as much like YA and that kind of lighter type of romance lately, but it's like I feel like I used to read it, and the thing I always loved about YA was it was the genre of first, and
Mm-hmm.
it's just before everyone is tainted by the reality of everyday life, and you become like bitter and just disappointed with how everything has gone. So that's like the quality that I always appreciated about YA was the genre of first, the first loves, the first real hardships and trials and just overcoming those. And I appreciate those stories so much.
The first heartbreaks,
The
those
first
always hit me.
heartbreaks.
Like I go back to my 20s and I'm like, oh, I know how you feel. I'm there. I get it.
Yeah.
Um, but I also like the fact that they're easy. They
Yeah.
don't take a lot of work for your brain to do them. As you know, there's a lot of kids in my house, a lot of things going on. I need some time to just not think about things, not be
That's something I hear from a
taxed.
lot of moms. Yeah.
Mhm. Yep.
Uh,
What have you
wives,
been doing?
moms. Honestly, like not a whole lot. I don't know if you've heard of Stardew Valley. It's like a little
No.
game, kind of like Animal Crossing, but I feel like it's better than Animal Crossing. So I have the little farm and I do some things on it there. I
I will
haven't,
have to get Carly into that.
yeah, no, it's super fun. Um, you can get married on the game, have kids, but
She's
take
too
care of
young for
farm
that.
animals, crops. Yeah, it's a blast. But I haven't been playing as much lately. I was playing the Animal Crossing as well. on the Nintendo Switch, but haven't been doing that either. Haven't been really like reading anything but Infinite Jest still behind. And like I said, I recently watched this show like that we're going to be talking about today last week as my dipping my toe into Apple TV. And then I recently watched the pilot episode of a sci-fi show that just released on Apple TV called Foundation. It's based on a book series. So I don't really know how to feel about that show yet. It's kind of a slow burn, and it's not like The Expanse. I don't know if you've heard of The Expanse or read the books or seen the TV show. Oh my God, Tara. Like this show, it's probably my favorite TV show ever. It's science fiction. It's based a couple hundred years in the future. There's Earthlings that have colonized space, basically. And so there have been generations of people growing up in the belt. So they're called belters, and their bodies have become acclimated to just zero gravity in space. So their bodies are shaped very differently. They're more fragile when they try to go to Earth or anything like that. And then you have Mars too. They're trying to colonize Mars and make it a viable planet to live on. And it's just really interesting because of the politics involved with it. But the books are excellent. That's like my ultimate favorite show. But the Foundation, I don't know what to think of it yet. It's definitely one that I have to pay attention to. And this sounds bad, but I like kept falling asleep trying to watch the pilot episode, which is not a good sign. But there's like another episode that's out. So I plan on watching that later. And that's like pretty much it. That's what I've been up to.
That sounds a lot like the book series that The Martian, the movie with Matt Damon, is based off
Oh,
of.
that
There's a
is
second
such,
one that sounds a lot like the colonization of
yeah.
Mars and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think
Yeah. I think the show is further along than The Martian. I haven't read The Martian, the book, but the
mhm,
movie was excellent. It's been a while. Now I want to watch
yeah,
that. See,
yeah.
this podcast is good. It's like making me feel things and want to
I don't have
watch
enough
things.
time though.
Yeah, I don't either. Not
That's that's the problem is I wanna reread all of this and watch all of this and do all of this, and then my kids are like, "But mommy, I need to eat today."
like, yeah,
I'm
I
really
guess
not a
then,
bad mom, I feed my kids, I promise. But
yeah. But let's jump into sweet and sours. What's something sweet today?
so I had today off, as you probably have guessed, since I said I binge watched this show. Um, so I had today off and I got to do just whatever I wanted. My kids are at school, so it was just me time, sitting on
Such
the
a great
couch,
feeling.
vegging, doing absolutely nothing besides watching a show and preparing for this episode. So that was fun.
Yay, I love that.
I really don't have a sour. Uh, I
Okay, way to brag about it.
I know. I kind of had just a really good day. So
That makes me happy. I'm happy for you.
yeah. What about you?
Sweet and sour. So I tried to prepare for my sweet today. So recently, like the last week or two, a couple books have come out that I pre-ordered. And so I got this Barnes and Noble exclusive edition of Empire of the Vampire, which is a new kind of blood smutty vampire series, like adult fantasy by Jay Kristoff. I think he said like he used the word fuck over 400 times in this book, but like the dialogue in this book, and it's a thick boy, is hilarious. Like I was laughing out loud so many times, but there were some like very tragic events and some big twists and stuff, and I just loved it. Like I have not read especially an adult vampire book in a really long time, probably since Charlene Harris's True Blood books were huge.
Mhm.
So, I mean, this was so good. And so
I
I'm
might have to read
really,
that.
yeah, I highly recommend it. So that one recently came out and I finally got my pre order. But like, it's so pretty and like it's illustrated too. So like the end papers are in color, but I mean, it's such a pretty book. And then the other book that recently came out was the 10-year anniversary book of the first Expanse book, Leviathan Wakes, that I was just talking about. But like, look at that hot pink. Is that
I
not
like
pretty?
it.
I just
I
love
like when
it.
books have, like, a little aesthetic thing going
Yeah.
on with them.
But like, yeah, so I was waiting on this, the 10-year anniversary, which I can't believe it's been that long. I started watching the show whenever it first came out on the Sci-Fi Channel, and it was just such a big budget film with all the effects and even the actresses in it. Like, if you are looking for something with a strong woman cast that are just like diverse and intelligent, and these women take zero shit from anybody, this is your show. Like, it is such a brilliant show in that sense. There's so many good traits about, like, qualities about it. But yeah, so I guess that's the sweet, is finally getting my pre-orders in from Barnes and Noble, which always show up late. So that's a sweet. Um Sour, been dealing with COVID in the house. So because of COVID, I'm not able to take Vincent into school. So he has been home with me for over a week, and can't take him to T-ball, really can't take him anywhere. So I've been trying, like, with just starting my job, like we talked about last time,
Mhm.
I've had to like have a conversation with my boss about like, hey, I can't come into work for the next couple of weeks because my kid's not in school and I have to watch him. So that's a good look when when just starting a job. So I will say that's a sour, but
Yeah,
hopefully he'll be able to go back to school very soon and give me a break so I can have more time again.
I understand that.
I'm
We
jealous
had
of
a
all of your me time.
we had a time last October where everybody had to be out because somebody on their bus had COVID, and so Michael and Carly had to stay out of school and stay home with me, and I'm like, "Guys, we just got you back in school, like,
I
we
know.
no, no
I'm
more of this."
I'm so over it. Like the pandemic stuff, I'm so over it.
Yeah, hopefully it gets better soon. They're they're supposed to have, vaccines for under 12 coming up in
Yeah.
November at the latest, I think. It's what I read
Is this the
recently,
5 and
so
up group?
I think so.
Yeah,
I'm slightly excited about that,
me too.
not gonna lie.
Anything that helps us like return to some
A
kind of
normal?
normal would be great. I
Mhm.
would like to travel again, or do,
Be able to go to a store without
have
a
a
mask.
life. I mean,
Yeah.
we've basically all just like missed out on 2 years of our life.
Mhm. I think we got closer. I know me and my kids, we played a lot of board games, which I don't think we would have before, like, 'cause, if
Yeah,
they were
that's
at school or
fun.
whatever. So I think we've gotten, back to, what we did when we were kids
Yeah.
without all of the other distractions. So I can see a little bit of good. I'm trying to, like, silver lining this, but I'm ready for, like, everybody to be able to go back.
Yeah. Man, I love board games. What did you guys play?
So I introduced my kids to Settlers of Catan recently.
I keep hearing
Um,
that that one's a great one to play.
I love that game. The instructions say do not introduce it like it's 10 and up. Michael just turned 8. Um, but I think he understands the rules better than some. And he did really good. He gets a little frustrated when he doesn't win. He's a sore loser, but
Yeah.
other than that, he did really good at understanding what he was supposed to be doing, and he even tried to form an alliance with me. He's like, "I'll get these resources, you get these, and then anytime we need them, we can just trade." And he had it all figured out of how he could get all of the resources that he would need. Uh,
And
so
he's
it was
8? Yeah.
he's 8, like, he had it down. Uh, but we've also been playing a lot of, like, Monopoly. There's some
Oh,
card game
oh man.
Monopolies, which are really fun, don't take friggin' 4 hours to do. And then we've also been playing a lot of Uno and Clue, that's another
Oh, I
one,
loved Clue.
introducing them to.
What
We
about
also
Life?
watched we don't play that a
No
lot.
Life? Mm.
We have it, but the kids don't really like it that much, and it takes freaking forever. So everybody loses their cool by the end of it, so we don't play that very often. We have to have a game that, like, ends within an hour or everybody's really irritated at everything, so they wanna know who won so that they can whine about them not winning, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds like so much fun though. Okay, well, we haven't really announced what we're talking about today.
We just gave a lot of, like, hints about binge watching it, and so
Yeah.
it's a series.
Yeah. Um, do you want to go into it or me? I really don't care.
Well, I can introduce it. So it is new series on Apple TV, and it is called Mr. Corman, and it is based around a character called Josh Corman, who is a teacher. He's a fifth grade teacher, which that's what grade Carly's in. So
I don't envy him.
I feel like I can empathize with him with a room full of fifth graders. Uh, it's got Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I wanted to say that name wrong because it's very similar to the Joshua Corman.
Yeah.
Wow. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who plays Josh Corman, and he again is around 40-ish, 35, 40, something around there. And he's just dealing with life. A lot of things are happening to him very quickly, and he's making it through, and in his making it through, you get to meet his ex-fiance, his friend Dax, his roommate Victor, um, and his parents, who he does not have a super healthy relationship with, I don't think.
Yeah. I'm a huge fan of Joseph Gordon-Levitt's work. I mean,
Mhm.
500 Days of Summer is one of my all-time favorite movies with Zoe Deschanel.
Yeah.
I just he does such it's always like an indie vibe. There's a very like whimsical feel to them,
Mhm.
tugs at your heartstrings. And I think it gives you a realistic glimpse into relationships a lot of times too,
Mhm.
because there are so many romantic movies out there that are just so out of the realm of just being grounded in reality. And I
Mhm.
feel like the relationship that was presented in 500 Days of Summer is how it goes a lot of the times. Like things just end. There really isn't a reason why one person always suffers a bit more, but you just kind of pick up the pieces and go on. So it's just, I feel like I've been a huge fan of Joseph Gordon Levitt for a while. I feel like I've just been watching him in different TV shows and stuff for a long, long time.
What
Yeah.
was the one that he starred in as a kid? The
Was it third?
Third Rock from the
Yeah,
Sun or
Third Rock.
something?
Hmm.
I loved that show. I used to have a crush on him in that
Me
show.
too.
I thought he was so cute.
I still have a crush on him. I
I
love
I will
him.
I will admit he looked a little older in this
Yeah,
series than I was picturing him, and
I still
no
love him.
offense by that, I still love him, he's still great, and I'm a little older than I picture myself too, so, but it's that nostalgia vibe, like, I wanted to picture him still that young kid that, I grew
Bright-eyed,
up knowing.
bushy-tailed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
so
love him. And so when I saw that this show was coming to Apple TV and he was directing it and writing the script, I guess I just never really knew. I don't follow him enough to know that he is big into writing his own
mhm,
work. And so when I saw that he wrote the script for it as well, I was very intrigued. And just because of his involvement with like Inception and 500 Days of Summer and those types of things, I was like, I know that this is going to be right up my alley and the type of show I like because I really gravitate towards existential crisis type of movies, like
yes.
depression, anxiety, the whole mental health thing, and just trying to figure it out. I feel like so many movies center on people in high school or college or right after college, like so young and have their lives ahead of them before they're locked down and everything like that. And this was like a take from a guy's perspective in this world. It's like 7 months before all of the pandemic stuff happened. And then during the pandemic and just adjusting to everything. And it just takes a little closer look at mental health throughout all of this and just finding meaning in life. And I love that.
I also think it took a really honest look at mental health because, a lot of people think it's, the schizophrenia or those bigger names or suicidal thoughts and all of that. And that's what mental health is. But this looks at like the anxiety side and what it actually does. And I mean, I've had anxiety in the past and still do. And how he was experiencing it is how it manifests, at least for me. I mean, it could
Me
manifest
too.
differently for everybody,
Yeah.
but I thought it was a very good look at what that actually is because I think some people think, "Oh, you have anxiety. Well, stop being nervous." And that's not the true definition of what people are feeling with that sometimes. And they don't really grasp how severe it can be and how impactful it can be on your life.
Yeah. I feel like that kind of definition and view of mental health is how, at least my dad's generation, maybe
Mhm,
yours too, like your mom's generation too. I mean, I was just having a conversation with my dad the other day because he's been having lots of health issues and they're trying to figure out what those issues are caused by. And so his doctor at the VA hospital told him that he should really go talk to a counselor. And my
mhm.
dad was just like, in my day, you were expected to be able to solve your own problems and blah, blah,
There's a
blah.
stigma.
Yeah, I'm just like, dude, all he said was to go talk to somebody. Like, you're in a major transition period of your life. You're 65 years old. This is the first time you haven't worked. You feel aimless, like you don't have a purpose anymore just because of all the stuff that's happened.
Mhm.
But it's like, it's not a bad thing to like want to make sure that your head, like your mental health is in a good spot by talking to someone, you know?
Well, and I don't understand that either. I mean, I do understand it, but at the same point, like, if you hurt your foot, which I guess that could be my sour for today, like, my foot is hurting. Um, I'm very talented, guys, but if you hurt your foot, you would go to the doctor for that.
Yeah. I would
And
hope.
so
My dad wouldn't.
well, I mean, my dad wouldn't either. My mom didn't. I think it's just that generation, like, they thought that they should be able to solve everything and they shouldn't need help, and
Yeah. And it's like, I
sometimes
hate
you do.
saying this, Tara, but like our generation, how they raised us by the comments that they said and their expectations just from what they grew up believing and behaving
Mhm.
like, they pushed that down on us. And because
Mhm.
of that, they did not do us any justice whenever we went out into the world. It just made everything more difficult for us and compounded our problems. And
Yeah.
I'm so resentful and bitter about that.
I think I don't know, I reacted the opposite of what they did, so I know my parents never went to the doctor, all of those things, and so anytime my kids have anything, I'm the parent that will take them to the doctor and be like, they're not acting right." And a lot of times it is something like Carly has broken her elbow multiple times, and,
Takes after her
uh
mother.
yes, yes, we are a talented family here, but I would take her to the doctor and they would look at me like, "Why are you bringing her in here?" But I knew that something wasn't right, and I think my parents would have been like, "You know what? Just try and walk it off, get over it, like,
Yeah,
it'll be
walk it
okay,
off.
like, we don't you don't need to go to the doctor," and that's not, like, trying to badmouth my parents or anything, but I took it to the other extreme where if I think that there's anything that can be done, I'm gonna try and make it happen for them.
Mm,
Whereas my parents are like, it's just a lot of money for very little that they're gonna do."
yeah,
And so I think people react to that differently.
yeah,
But I know I took it to the other extreme, and that's probably gonna cause those same feelings for my kids. Like, my mom took me to the doctor every time I said anything, so I'm not gonna do that to my kids.
yeah. I mean,
And then there's
the opposite happened for me, but it's like I would rather be proactive about it and just do
mhm,
something about it and take action like you. But like me, I mean, I'll be honest, I'm 36 years old. I'm still like working against these expectations that were pushed down on me from when I was a kid by my parents. And it's like, I still find myself slipping back into like, oh, I don't need to go to the doctor for this. I'll put things off like that. Or no, I don't need to go talk to someone about my problems. Like, I can figure it out myself. I'm independent. I can handle it. I like catch myself doing that constantly. And it's so frustrating.
See, I do that for myself. Like, I will
Oh,
limit the like, me taking care of myself,
mm,
but for my kids, I make sure that they go to the doctor. I make sure that they do these things because I'm the person controlling their health at that point.
yeah,
They have no say in that. It is up to me to make sure that they get that, and, you know that my dad died very quickly after he was diagnosed with cancer, but that was due to the fact that he did not go to the doctor sooner. And there might have been something that could have happened if he would have went sooner, and some treatments that maybe he could have done, and I think that that's affected me in the fact that I'm not gonna let that happen. If there's something I could have done with my kids not having the power over it, I'm gonna do that.
yeah,
But for myself, I'm very bad at putting myself first. So if my
yeah,
kids need something, I'm gonna get it for them, and if I don't have enough money or if I don't have enough time or whatever for me, it just goes on a back burner,
yeah.
which isn't quite the same thing, but for a different reason, I don't do those things for me.
I know. Which I'm the same
I
way, Tara. I'm just like my eyes are tearing up, but it's like I that speaks to me.
I feel like we're doing the same thing to our kids. I think every generation there is something that the kids are like, "My parents should have done this differently." And I think that that goes back to the show too, because Josh has that relationship with his dad where he thought his dad could have done something differently. But then in one of the later episodes, you see like his dad trying to make him remember some of the good things and
Yeah,
some of the things he did do that Josh was complaining about that he didn't do. And so it was just that relationship that I feel like I have with my parents, and I feel like I'm gonna go out on a limb and say most people have with their parents where they think, "You could have done something different,
yeah.
but you don't remember everything."
Yeah. I loved that scene. Like that scene made me cry when I was watching it because it's such a relatable scene. I mean, these are two people I think everyone can relate to having a difficult relationship with at least one of their parents or someone very very close to them like that. And it was
Mhm.
just done in a way it's like, okay, here's this father figure who's played by Hugo, who was in The Matrix way back in the day. I was watching it, I was like, who, why does he look so familiar?
I
There's
didn't
something
place
about his voice.
that.
Like, why is his voice? And it's like, it's Agent Smith, Mr. Anderson. Like, I remembered his voice. But anyway, so he's the father figure in episode 9, which is when we finally get to meet him. And he's having this really deep heart to heart conversation with Josh Corman, which is played by Joseph. And they have opposite perspectives, just experiences on like the
Mhm.
same memory.
Same event.
Yeah, the same event, and they just have opposing views of it, and it's so crazy how time or life experiences just kinda change, like, your perception of what it was, and it's like no one is objectively right or wrong, like, these are the truths for
Mhm.
each person, but it was such an emotional scene, like, there's so much baggage between them that it just hit really hard.
I got pulled into my relationship with my dad,
Yeah.
like, I don't know, every time I see an older gentleman, an older guy, like, it reminds me of him, and with that one, I wanted to be on his side because of that, but I could also see Josh's side in all of that, but it was also really cool to see how the events that he didn't even remember happening with his dad shaped his life. Like, one of the events was going to a concert where his dad played,
Mhm.
and he didn't remember this at first, but he's a musician himself, and that had to have come from his dad's love of it,
Yeah.
and his dad showing him that love early on in his life, and so it was very fun and interesting to see that relationship, even though Josh felt bitter about it,
Yeah.
how it brought about some of the better things in Josh's life,
Yeah.
and he didn't even know.
Yep. We have so many influences throughout life, and it's like sometimes we just forget for whatever reason, block it out, whatever,
Mhm.
depending on
He
yeah.
wanted to think negatively of his dad, so I think he kept that
Yeah.
in the back of his mind, which I think it never did say exactly what his dad did, but it hinted that his dad was not the greatest dad in the world. I think some drugs or alcohol or something and, like, leaving had to do with a lot of that, but it never came outright and said, "This is why."
Yeah.
But there was not a great relationship there,
Yeah.
and I
Uh,
think Josh just wanted to believe the worst in the whole time instead of
well, it's easier.
acknowledging there were some positive moments.
Yeah. It's
And I think we're
easier.
all like that. I think
Mhm.
when we get it in our heads that this is a bad situation or this is a, whatever, we want to believe the worst. Like, have you ever had that relationship where it ended horribly and so that's all you could think about is the bad?
Yeah.
You want to think about the good.
Yeah, there was a conversation in the show, I forget who it was with, but I mean, Josh Corman was in the conversation, but the person he was talking to, maybe it was his dad, I can't remember, but they were or maybe it was his sister, but they were essentially like, you know, you act like all this bad stuff has happened to you, but like you're to blame for a lot of it. Like a lot
Mhm.
of it is your fault too. And I think with Josh and his dad and even his mom, just the various relationships in his life, he likes to just isolate and protect himself
Mhm.
by always pointing the finger, like blaming some other outside
Yeah.
external thing instead of just like facing the music and accepting that, some
He
of
had
this was in his control and he did nothing about it. And it's
yeah,
so real.
I had a hard time being on Josh's side throughout this series, like, a hard time. He did so many things, I'm like, "Dude, you should have done that differently. Why are you not owning up to that?" Even, like, his friendship with Victor. I love Victor. Victor
Oh,
is so great, but I feel like Josh takes advantage of him a little bit and expects him to, like, do exactly what he wants him to do and doesn't give him, like, the autonomy to be himself either, you know?
mm,
And so I had a hard time being on his side. I had a hard time
that
being there
is
for him. Like I was there, like he had mental health issues and I was there for that and I understand that. But even when he was talking to like try and get an appointment with a mental health professional, he called his insurance and was just like almost hateful the entire time with the person trying to help him, which insurances aren't super fun to talk
I was
to.
gonna
So
say
I
I've had phone
like
conversations like that where I'm like getting pissed off on the phone,
yeah,
just like
I get
yelling.
that, I get that, but even, like, it just like, he took it to an extreme that I'm not sure he needed to
He made the
at that
situation
time.
worse. Like they would have been
Yes,
more
yes,
compelled to help him if he would have just like taken it down a notch.
yes, yes, and even, like, when he was talking to the doctor to get the appointment, he's like they told him that the earliest appointment is 2 months from them, which is an issue in our healthcare system. It is. I've had that experience exactly like that, trying to get help, and at that time, like, I was feeling suicidal, and I'm like, "No, like, come on, I need help." But it happened. But his follow-up to that was, "Well, can I see her today?" And I'm like, "No, they would have probably told you if they had an appointment available today." Like, I feel like they would have. So I don't know. I had a hard time feeling his side in a lot of these situations,
Yeah.
especially when I guess my love for Victor, like, trumped everything for Josh, and so when he was not being the nicest to Victor, I was like, "Okay, dude, you've lost me. You have lost me right here."
Yeah. I'm gonna have to rewatch the entire show through your lens of seeing Josh Corman because the first time I watched it through, I was like, oh my God, I was inserting myself into Josh's shoes. Like I felt like all of the thoughts and just feelings and experiences that he was having were very reflective of things that I'm feeling right now in my personal life. It's just like
Mhm.
everything is pointless. I don't have a purpose. I'm not doing what I wanted to be doing, like that kind of thing. Like relationships suck, all of it. And so I
Mhm.
inserted myself into his shoes and I was just like totally into his character. I'm like, yes, you are right. Yes. Like, why isn't anything going your way? Like, I was empathizing with him so, so much. And so I want to rewatch it through like your lens of having a critical take on him.
I think I mean, I don't know, if you've ever rewatched a movie from when you were a kid, you agreed with, like, the kid at the time, their parent
Yeah.
was horrible, like, all of those things, and then when you rewatch it when you're a parent, you're like, "Why did I agree with that person?" Like, "No, they're clearly wrong." I think that that's maybe what's going on, because I have lived through what he experienced and had those, and I think I realized you get more um, help and more whatever by being a little nicer. And I saw him taking it to the extreme, which again I think the line for me was Victor. Like Victor was only there. He was like a ride or die for him, and he was always there to help him.
Mm.
And I felt like
Mm.
Josh wasn't there for him.
Yeah.
It's a two-way street, and Victor, at least in the episode that is solely about Victor, I feel like he could have used Josh there.
Yeah.
He could have
Oh my
used
God.
Josh to have some sympathy for him, and Josh was just nowhere. He just expected it to be all about him, and the same could be said about Dax. Like, Dax, who is another friend of Josh's, um, and spoiler alert, ends up dying in one of the episodes. He had a heart to heart with Josh about, "The only reason you're friends with me is you want something from me.
Mm.
You only call me when you want something from me." And I feel like that's what Josh did to both Victor and Dax. He was there for them or whatever when he needed them. And even in Victor's case, he wasn't there even then. Like Victor tried to help him and he was just very
Yeah. That's
he didn't
that.
appreciate it at all,
Yeah.
even when he was solely there for him.
Yep.
Like, one scene and I feel like Victor's daughter did the same thing, and I'm like, "No, be nice to Victor, he's good, he's a good guy, he's just trying to help. He loves everybody around him." And, I mean, the scene that brings it out is they didn't have enough money to buy a weighted blanket, and Victor thought maybe that could help with some of the anxiety, and so he's like, "I'll make one." And you could tell Josh just did not I mean, he made one by laying on top of him, so I'm not sure I would be there for that either, like, that'd be kind of awkward, but he was trying his best to make it better,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah.
I was there for Victor. I was there for him,
Yeah.
but
That come to Jesus moment that I couldn't remember who it was with, whether it was the dad or sister. It
Mhm.
was that one, that moment with Dax where he was just
Yeah.
like, "Look, you're kind of a shitty person, a very
Yeah.
one-way street." And yeah, that was a wake-up call. And it's just like when you think about I didn't like Dax at first, especially when we first saw
No.
him because he's
Even
just,
as a
like, very
kid.
surface level. Yeah, he's, like, into his thing, and he seemed to be, like, boasting about his social following and all of that stuff, which are very, like, vapid things at the end of the
Mhm.
day. And so that's but, like, if you think about how Josh was interacting with Dax, Dax was interacting the same way back. So it's like whatever
Mhm.
Josh was putting out into the world, that's what he was receiving back. And so, like you said, it's a two-way street. And so yeah, I'm I'm going to love rewatching this just to see all of these different interactions the other way now. But it's just like even Josh's relationship with his mom, like that was it. He doesn't have a good relationship with anyone, like literally
Yeah,
anyone. And
and
yeah, and the mom, she has like her own set of problems. She strikes me as I don't want to say she's a codependent person, but
mhm.
she seems like she's always like having to attach herself to someone to feel complete. And that couldn't have been a good teaching or lesson
upbringing.
for Josh or his sister growing up, because we see the type of relationship that Josh's sister is in. The guy's a total douchebag. Like, I just like, I see him and I just want to like punch him in the face every time he opens his mouth because he's awful.
I don't know, like, the sister also, I'm like, "Dude, tone it down, like, it's okay." Like, did you see her bins on the wall? Like, everything. I say that, and I have the same type of bins in my
Oh,
closet,
she has
and
all the wall of bins and she still cannot find what she's looking for.
I
Some
say that,
organization. Yeah.
but I also have, like, a holiday thing in my garage where each bin has a different holiday, so I have no room to be, like, bad-mouthing her, but she also just seems very controlling, and I
You're
don't like
sensitive to
people
that.
who want to control other people or feel entitled to make other people do it their way. Like,
Yeah.
no, I can live my life how I want to live my life. You live your life how you want. That's all fine and dandy, but like do not come in and try and make me live mine your
Yeah.
way.
She,
Like,
yeah, she was. I knew that uh, her parenting style would kind of grate on you just because, yeah, you are sensitive to that type of thing. And it's like there was a scene between Josh and her daughter. It was like
mhm.
the son David's birthday party.
Who's
And
a horrible person according to Josh and his
yeah,
dad, which is very funny to me. Like he's a little kid. They're like, he's a
he's like
horrible person. I'm
9.
like,
No, he's a
I
terrible person.
yeah, I'm like, do you not see how similar you guys are? You both just called a 9-year-old a horrible person.
I mean, to be real, I have met some children who are little shits that I'm
I
just
mean,
like, but you
I've
can't blame the kid. You know, monkey
no.
see, monkey do. It's like whatever they're
Well,
raised around.
and if they're raised in, like, an environment where they don't feel control at all, they're gonna try and influence control outside of that,
Yeah.
and sometimes that is being little shits,
Maybe
and
that's David's deal. Yeah.
I tell my kids all the time that, if somebody's being mean to you or they're not acting right, then we just have to think about what they're going through because there's most likely a reason they're doing that as kids. They're not just bad people.
Mhm.
There's a reason. And I mean, maybe David's issue, or I forgot his name, but his issue is that his uncle and his grandpa think he's a little shit. And I'm sure that if they're willing to say that out loud, they're treating him
Yeah.
negatively as well, and
Yeah.
maybe that's the reason.
People, what I liked about that whole scene with the birthday party is people often just downplay kids' intelligence, but they're so incredibly observant and pick up on things
Mhm.
like that. It's like you don't have to tell the child to their face that you don't like them or you think they're a brat or whatever, but it's like they can pick up on that. I mean, it doesn't go over their heads. And that's probably, yeah, you're right. That's probably what David's exhibiting. And it's like,
And
the sister too. It's just the mom is so controlling and doesn't let them free think or be independent thinkers for themselves. And
mhm,
what I did appreciate about the scene was Josh was having as much of an adult conversation with the daughter, the little girl, as he could. Like he wasn't trying to he
make her
wasn't
believe
trying
it.
yeah, he wasn't trying to make her believe in God, but he was not trying to like not make her believe in God either. He was just like
Mhm.
not lying. Like he kept defending himself. He was like, "What do you want me to do? Lie?" And he was just being real.
Yeah.
And the mom is just so controlling and she's like, "No, like you don't teach her that kind of thing." And it's like, well, the daughter is already of an age where she's picking
She's
up on
asking the
this. Yeah,
question.
she's asking. She's curious about it. What's the problem, you know?
And to his point, I do agree with him there. Like, to his point, if you lie to a kid, they pick up on that, and they then think, "Oh, okay, they lied to me
Okay.
about this, maybe I can lie about this."
Yep, that's how it
And,
starts.
like you said, they pick up on things. You don't have to specifically tell them, "I'm a liar, so it's okay,"
Yeah,
but they pick up on it.
they do.
And so, yeah.
And maybe
And I
that's
think that
Josh's
that's also
problem.
yeah, how Josh got the way
Look
he
at
was.
his
He
parents, how
picked
they
up on
are.
his dad
Oh my god.
and how he acted, and while he doesn't want to act that way, he ended up a mirror image of his dad. And that happens a lot in, like, children who are abused or whatever as children. They end up going and being abusive themselves or, girls who are in a family where the mom is in an abusive relationship end up in abusive relationships because that's what they think is normal.
Yeah.
And so I think, yeah, you were right. Josh probably picked up on that as a kid, and that's why he acts that way. And his sister picked up on it with their mom, and she acts that way now too. I think lots of mental damage done in that family.
So much mental damage, but it's like you're watching this show and there's somebody that you can relate to in some way. And it's just you realize that literally everyone has issues and problems. And it's
Mhm.
like it's nothing personal. It's just everybody is going around in life enacting their own experiences on everybody else all the time.
Yeah.
And that's like all life is from how we, you
And
know.
that was one of my big takeaways from this show is you never know what somebody else is going through. I bet
Oh,
his 5th grade class did not know that he was having such severe anxiety. I bet that his mom didn't know that or notice it. I mean, I know his dad didn't because he was kind of out of the picture, but you just never know what somebody else is going through and what hurdles they have going on in their lives
yeah.
at that time. And so again, I always tell my kids like treat people how you would want to be treated because you don't know what's going on. You have a good life here
Hmm.
and they might not. So maybe you being kind to them is the only kindness they're going to have that day. So be kind. Like
Yeah.
what does it do to you to be nice to somebody who wasn't the nicest to you?
Yeah.
Like it doesn't hurt you to be nice to them.
Yeah. I love that. It's so true. That's one of the things I thought was so beautifully done about the show is you got to peek behind the curtain with Victor
Mhm.
Morales, his roommate, because the first episode, you see this bubbly guy. There's a lot of funny exchanges and banter between the two. One of the first scenes is like Josh comes home from work, he plops down on the couch. Sometime later, he wakes up or whatever, and Victor's just like, "Hey, I'm making spaghetti. You want some?" And Josh is like, "Is there spaghetti sauce?" He's like, "No." Like, are you seriously not going to eat any because I don't have spaghetti sauce? But it's just like that thing where like Victor did not have to make you dinner, bro. Like he didn't have to do that at all. But he was just like the type of person to,
Mhm.
just do a kind act. And like the second, or I forget what episode number it is, but it's purely Victor's perspective. Like I wanted to cry so much because Victor had such a positive, enthusiastic outlook, regardless of the challenges that he was facing with his ex-wife and
Mhm.
daughter or work. Like he's a UPS driver, delivery guy, and all of these houses that we see him stop at, they just treat him like shit. And he's just
Mhm.
like continues
Don't
being,
acknowledge him.
yeah, they don't acknowledge him. They treat him like he's less than human because he's a delivery driver, and he just continues being like bubbly and nice and Victor. I
And
just
then his daughter did the same thing to him. And I'm like,
oh,
"Come on now.
I was so
Don't be
mad.
mean to your dad. Like, you're not gonna have him all the time." I think, again, I went back to the, like, "Don't be mean," but I think that was one of the scenes that if I were watching this as a 16-year-old, I'd be like, "Yeah, that dad's, needs to back off a little bit,"
Yeah,
and
he's
the
not.
perspective changes
Yeah,
when you're older and you're like, no,
yeah,
that was kind of a bitchy thing to do." Like,
yeah,
don't be a bitch to your dad, like, he's just trying to help you, he's just there for you. So,
yeah. I love this show. I'm so happy that you agreed to like watch it and like binged all of the episodes. Like that means a lot. And there was even an episode, Many Worlds. I geek out about Many Worlds theory like so much. Like I don't know if you've seen Mr. Nobody with Jared Leto.
no.
Oh my god, such a great movie. One of my favorite movies. And anytime it appears in books or TV shows, it's popped up in Supernatural too, like different versions
Mhm.
of the same life. I love that. I just eat it right up. And so we had an entire episode dedicated to, okay, if
What
Josh would
life
have made a different decision at all of these turning points in life, for what his life would have looked like. I just loved having that glimpse. I mean, it had everything in it. I love that episode so much.
And that episode brought back something that was introduced in the first episode, like right off the beginning, about luck. Because he asked his fifth grade class about, well, after a little bit of talking, one of the students said that one of the reasons Lewis and Clark were successful was because of luck. And he asked the class if they really believed that, if luck did play a part in somebody being successful or not. And they all said yes, but they all said that they were not lucky, which was very sad to me that none of them, well, one of them said he was lucky, but none of the other kids in that class thought that they were lucky. And for me, that means if you're correlating that, none of them thought that they were going to be successful.
I know.
Because if they believed that luck had a part in success, and that they weren't lucky, they none of them thought that they were gonna, like, amount to anything, which is incredibly sad when you think about that. But then in that episode that you're talking about, Sandra, they bring that back in because he brought up that he was lucky in one of them, or there was a luck conversation about he said that they were not lucky for being successful, that they put the time and the work in, but in that one, he was a really big douchebag.
Oh, he was
It's
such a
like, at the
dick.
end, he was, like, trying to make this girl, like, go out with him, and she's like, "I have a boyfriend," and he gets livid that she would not go out with him and mad because he makes more money than her boyfriend, so he didn't understand why she wouldn't, like, just drop everything to be with him, and I'm like, "Dude, you're a douche. Stop."
Narcissist. Yeah.
Yes.
It reminded me of the Gabby Petito story with Brian Laundrie. Like you
Yes.
heard he caused this huge scene in the restaurant because of the bill. And she was like, she went back into the restaurant to apologize to the waitresses and staff, which pissed him off even more. So people are like speculating she did not live long after that, just because he was such a, a controlling narcissist like that.
Mhm.
And she did not please him. That
Yeah.
scene in the Many World episode, yeah, it's like, what are you willing to give up if you want to be lucky, if that means being a dick, thinking that you're
Yeah.
better than other people. Yeah.
Well, and it also brought up there were a few times where he was not super pleasant to girls or about women, which I think he lost me on. Like, he lost a few points with me on that too. Because, like, even in the beginning, when they were talking about going out, him and Victor, he was like, "Yeah, I don't want to go out," because basically he said girls at bars have nothing to like talk about. They're all uninteresting.
And he's
And I'm
like, but
like,
you
dude,
met Megan
ouch.
in a bar.
Yeah, I'm
He's
like,
like, that's
ouch.
different.
I feel like I can be interesting in a bar the same as I can be interesting outside of a bar,
Yeah.
but it felt like he had, like, a very, like, negative, almost negative impression of women, and that could be that he just went through a breakup, so I get it, maybe he was negative about women, but
Yeah.
it seemed like he had a very not super healthy impression of women.
On that note, I think Josh is very representative of like a lot of guys today. I
Mhm.
think there's this huge societal effort for guys to be more empathetic and sensitive to women in particular. So it's like we see in the very first episode that exchange between Josh and the student when they're talking about Sacagawea. She's like, why can't
Yeah.
you just say she was their guide? Why does she have to be like their female guide? And he's just like, well, I thought it was important to point out that she was a female guide because back then it was very difficult for women to feel empowered in leadership positions. And she's like, it's still difficult today. And he's just like, okay, yeah, touche, because it's true.
And I thought I was gonna love him because I'm like, "Ooh, dude, you are so, like, on
I
that." Like,
I
I
still love
loved
him.
that scene. And, I mean, I don't not love him, I'm just saying, like, I found some faults in his character. Um, but I thought he was gonna be all female empowering, and then, like, a couple scenes later, he's like, "Yeah, women don't have anything to offer besides sex." And I'm like, "Dude, like, they do. Maybe you don't have as much as you think
But
you
like,
have to
here's the
offer."
thing. He ends up going to the bar and he finds like the perfect woman to fulfill this like mindset that he has of like the
Uh-huh.
woman that you meet at the bar. Like every single checkbox, she like marks it off for like what he wanted to avoid in meeting someone
Yeah.
at the bar. Like The woman is like,
So I think it's a him problem, not a the women problem. I
I
don't
don't
think
know.
every woman at the bar was like that, but he self-fulfilled his prophecy that that was what he was gonna find.
I mean, sure. You did have like Dax in the background, like, yeah, yeah, like go do it, you know? Dax.
Yeah.
Dax is like, I don't know. Dax is one of those characters that I didn't like him at first, but then he grew on me. Like, basically, he was acting that way because he really didn't know how to be real with Josh.
And he wanted to be liked. He
But
wanted him to like him.
yeah, but again, yeah. And then, like, to make it a little more complicated, the reason why Josh knows Dax in the first place was because of his fiance. Like, they
Mhm.
were the same circle of people. So I imagine that would cause a lot of friction and not really knowing how to behave with the other person. Like, it'd be a
Yeah.
weird kind of tension.
Well, Dax grew up with his ex-fiance,
Yeah.
and that's how they met. Like, he wasn't even, like, in the same circle. He got brought into that circle.
Yeah.
So, I agree. I'm not faulting him all the way. I'm not saying he's a
Thank
horrible
you.
person. He had his moments. I just think he has some faults that he is not willing to, like, admit he has, and thus isn't willing to grow.
Yeah. I mean,
And
he's
I
having
wanted him to
a
grow.
major life crisis, really. Like, everything is
Yeah.
hitting him at once, and we're just seeing all of that come out.
Well, even with the pandemic scenes, like,
Oh,
I feel for him because he is deathly afraid of everything. But then he goes to his mom's house and he expects her just to do whatever he wants her to do, and I'm like, "Dude, I was feeling you. I was there for it. I was there for you. I was agreeing with you." And then you go to your mom's house and you're like, "And you're gonna need to bring me up food every day." I'm like, "Okay, now you've lost me again. Like, you're a grown ass man. Come on now."
yeah.
Like,
Yeah, that is true.
so there were times where I'm like, yeah, yeah, I agree with you. I get it. Especially that first scene when he's with the children, like he is so great with them. I'm like, I want to be on your side this whole time, and I get the mental health aspect of it. He's going through it, so benefit of the doubt that maybe he's not this way all the time,
Yeah.
but I just don't think he had any empathy for anybody else in his life. He felt like they should all, like, cater to him,
That's
revolve
interesting.
around him, and he didn't give them the benefit of the doubt that they could be going through something. It was
Yeah.
all like, "I'm going through something, so I'm the important person."
Yeah, I think that's a good point to make. He's not a bad person at all. I mean, like the rest of us, I think he seems so subdued and numb because he's like
Mhm,
so like just overburdened with everything that he has been hoisting around and not facing head on. It's like
mhm,
even his relationship with his ex-girlfriend or ex-fiance, Megan, like there was that scene where he ends up going to her mom's house,
mhm.
which the mom was Lucy Lawless, Xena warrior princess.
I almost lost it when she threw up on
Oh
herself,
my
though.
god,
I'm like, "Ugh,
that
mm,
was uh, it was gross, but I was like laughing my ass off. But like I wasn't expecting the Xena
mhm."
persona like to have that kind of scene. I like wasn't expecting it at all, but it was
Yeah,
great. But no, it's like this other thing. It's like another layer of their relationship is just this mom loves Josh. She wanted them to work out. And then Megan's just like, you didn't support us. Like you gave up. And so from her perspective, it's she's not the bad person here. Like he gave up at some point.
I was on his side in this, though.
You were? That's so
I was.
interesting. We're like
I
flip
was.
flopped. Yeah.
Because I was on his side in this because he felt like he was giving her what they needed because she wanted a family, she wanted kids and all of these things, and they had talked about it. And so in his mind, he did not want to be his dad. He did not want to be the person on the road, the person not home, the person in the drugs and the alcohol. And so he thought by giving up the music life, he was making it possible to have a normal childhood for those children, something better than what he had. So I was actually on his side, which is very odd considering I've not been on his side this whole time during that.
Mhm. That's
Because
interesting.
I thought he, in his head, was trying to do the best. He was giving up something he loved to make it work.
Mm. I mean, that's a fair point. I think one of the problems that just keeps bubbling up throughout this series, though, is that people like they hear the other person, but they're not truly listening and like they're not
Communication.
communicating. It goes
Yes,
back to
yes.
communication always. So it's like,
Everything. I think
yeah, he
it's
should
gonna
have.
be a theme.
He made the executive decision in doing that without
Mhm.
obviously discussing it with her because obviously still a year after the relationship, music is still a huge part of her life. Like she's still trying and
Mhm.
hoping and has these dreams for herself. And they didn't talk about it.
Yeah. I think we're gonna see him grow a lot. I
I hope
think
so.
towards the end, I think his conversation with his dad was a breakthrough. I think he is gonna grow and learn that not everything was somebody else's fault. And once he gets that, I think he's gonna become a person that I like a lot more.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Yeah.
so I'm interested to see the last episode and then to see if there's a second season to see how he grows.
Yeah. I really hope so. I need to like research and see if there's going to be a next season, but
Yeah, I didn't look at that.
yeah, I love this one. I'm going to watch it again just to like look at it from your perspective, but
But
it's so interesting we had opposing opinions on everything.
yeah, and it's interesting to again, it goes back to the opposing opinions of him and his dad and him and his mom and him and
Yep.
his sister and him and Victor and
It's
everything. Everybody sees the same situation, but because of their personal experience and all of that, they can come up with a different opinion, and I'm sure our listeners are coming up with way
yeah,
different opinions than either one of us as we're talking this through, but everybody has different history, everybody has different experiences, and
exactly.
I think that that's something to keep in mind when you're living these things.
Yep.
Everybody has a different take on it, and
Yep.
it doesn't mean it's wrong, it doesn't mean it's right, it doesn't mean it's bad, it doesn't mean it's good, it's just different. Their life experience is different.
Yep. It's the mom telling herself a story. It's Josh telling himself a story. It's the dad telling himself a story, and everyone just
Mhm,
walking around enacting their baggage on everybody else all the time. That's like the entire thing. And
mhm.
it's so real. It's so grounded in reality and what is happening. I just feel like this show did an incredible job at doing that. And I think that's why it means so much. Like
Yeah.
everything going on in my life, yeah, the parallels.
It also did, like I mentioned earlier, a great job of showcasing mental health
Oh, yeah. Let's
and
talk about it with
what it actually is, but also the trouble with our healthcare system and how that doesn't help the mental health crisis we've got going on.
yeah. It's a shame. I think the world, at least in this country, it's slowly waking up to this problem
Mhm,
and being more open to talking about it and it not being so taboo to talk
mhm.
about, because you're always afraid an employer is watching or, whoever. But I think
Yeah,
it is on the right track to get better, but there's still like so much work.
a lot going on with it,
Yeah.
a lot
Yeah.
going on. Be nice to people, guys.
I know, it's not that hard,
Be
like,
kind.
it's not about being right or wrong, it's just about being an empathetic human being, like, understanding where someone's coming from and just
Mhm.
accepting their truth, you know?
Yep.
That's all there is to it, and so, I don't know, I really love this discussion, I love this TV show, I'm gonna rewatch it, but with each of these episodes, we always wanna tie it back to something good, so what do you have for me, Tara?
Well, as Sandra said, we like to tie it back to something good or something that we can put out in the world that's better. And we've tied back every episode to a different charity that you can support or not. It's your decision, whatever you want, but it's going to be out there for you. And this one is the Mental Health Association National. Wow, I can't say that, but we're going to put it on. It's actually the Mental Health America National, that's what I was trying to say, but, we're gonna put a link on our website, and it's just a mental health organization that tries to help those with mental health crisis. So take a look. If you feel inclined, help. If you don't, then just try and be nice to people.
Yeah.
One nice moment could be the moment that changes their perspective.
Yeah, it's like this ripple effect. I was talking to someone about this. It's like even the smallest positive thing can make someone's day so much
Mhm.
better, but it's this ripple. It's like if you do something really nice for someone else, they'll feel better and they'll do that and it just like keeps going. Like there isn't a deed small enough to not have a big impact. There really
Well,
isn't.
and on the flip, like it's never your fault if something goes wrong with a person's life, but one negative interaction with somebody, it can cause a negative, thing to happen in their life. So our actions impact no matter how we do it. A positive's always better, but being mean to somebody when they
Yeah.
don't deserve it or when they're going through something,
Yeah.
it could have a negative
Yeah.
impact on their lives. And I'm sure nobody wants to have a negative impact on somebody else's life.
No. And it's I feel like it's so much easier to do now that everyone has to be on these social platforms to connect with each other, especially during the midst of a pandemic, which I also
Mhm.
feel like the show does an incredible job at just showing you how difficult life is to connect with people.
And how many different views on the pandemic there
Mhm.
are, because he takes it very seriously. But his mom is a little more lax about it,
Yeah.
and Victor doesn't see a way that he can change what he has to do. He has to continue to work,
Yep.
or he can't afford things. He can't, take care of his daughter. And whereas Josh is a teacher, so not saying teachers had it well during this, but at least you could go home and take care of things that you needed to. At least you still had the job
Yeah.
that you were able to still make money. Whereas Victor, he was a driver. Like if he didn't work, he didn't get money. He couldn't survive.
Yeah.
And so there are lots of different aspects of that
I
too.
know. I mean, it just did such a masterful job at showcasing that, and I think that's one thing the pandemic did is just amplifying existing problems
Mhm.
and just, you know, amplifying them tenfold.
Yeah.
Everyone's like physically separated now and everything is just like blown up and so much worse. And yeah.
And that's mentally exhausting
Oh,
too. And
yes.
so the mental health crisis that we were already in is not being helped by the mental exhaustion being at home. And we are social beings.
Yeah.
Not getting that also plays into the mind.
Yeah. It's
So,
just mental health and treating people with humility and respect and kindness. It's just so important. It's like the
mhm,
smallest thing can make the biggest impact.
yep.
Big takeaways.
I know we've not dogged, not all of that, the mental health system here, but if you do need help, reach out. Reach
Yeah.
out to somebody, reach out to an organization. There are a lot of organizations that are there to help. So
Well said, Tara.
that's my last input there.
Yeah.
Nobody should suffer alone.
Mm-mm. No. And with that said, we hope you enjoyed episode 3 of the Story Darlings podcast, talking about Mr. Corman and mental health. And thanks for listening. All right.
Bye.
Bye.